When you're standing in the kitchen with a bowl of flour, a bag of yeast and a half hour of free time, the question that pops up isn't how fast can this mixer spin, but will this machine actually make my weekend baker's projects easier without turning my counter into a circus? I've spent the last few evenings testing a few countertop dough mixers, because the market is flooded with half-size stand mixers that promise professional results, but often leave home bakers with more cleanup than dough. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Omcan SP200AT is a 20-quart planetary dough mixer that comes with a guard, a timer, and 3 attachments. At first glance it looks like the kind of machine that could handle a big batch of pizza dough, or a hefty loaf of sourdough without breaking a sweat. The real test, though, is whether the gear-driven system and the included timer actually translate into smoother workflow in a typical home kitchen, and whether the price point matches the day-to-day value you'll get. Let's start with the practical setup. The unit arrives in a metallic grey box that fits neatly onto a standard countertop. The dimensions are reasonable enough that it doesn't dominate the work surface, but you'll still need a clear 2-foot radius around it for the guard to swing open fully. Installation is essentially plug in and press the start button. The guard is a thoughtful addition because it keeps the bowl and the dough from splattering when you hit a higher speed, something that many cheaper mixers neglect. In real life, I found that when I was kneading a sticky whole wheat dough at the second speed, the guard held the dough in place, and I didn't have to chase stray clumps across the kitchen floor. The timer is another feature that feels more suited to a commercial environment than a hobbyist's countertop. I set it for a 10-minute mix on a batch of cinnamon rolls, and the machine automatically shut off when the time elapsed. That gave me a reliable cue to stop mixing before the dough became overdeveloped. For someone who bakes multiple loaves in a row, that hands-free timing can save a lot of mental juggling. However, the timer is limited to a single continuous run. If you need to pause and add ingredients mid-mix, you have to stop the machine manually, wait for the timer to reset, and then start it again. It's not a deal-breaker, but it's a small inconvenience if your recipe calls for staggered ingredient additions. Now, the 3 attachments: a flat beater, a dough hook, and a whisk. The dough hook is where the mixer shows its character. On a medium-weight brioche dough, the hook managed to develop gluten in about 8 minutes, which aligns with most professional guidelines. The planetary motion, meaning the bowl rotates while the hook turns, ensures even dough development without the need to stop and scrape the sides. In contrast, a few other countertop mixers I've tried use a simpler orbit motion that can leave pockets of unmixed flour. The planetary action on the Omcan makes that a non-issue, and you end up with a smoother, more uniform dough. What about the 3 speeds? I found the lowest speed perfect for gentle folding, the middle speed ideal for most bread doughs, and the high speed useful only for whipping egg whites or making a quick pancake batter. The high speed can be a bit aggressive for dough. If you set it too high on a sticky mixture, the guard can vibrate noticeably and the dough may cling to the hook. For a home baker who doesn't need that level of intensity, the 3rd speed often stays unused, which means you're paying for a capability you might never tap into. Strengths become clearer when you think about the day-to-day routine. The 20-quart bowl holds enough dough for 2 standard loaves, or a batch of pizza dough for a small family, meaning you won't have to run multiple cycles for a single dinner. The guard and timer together reduce the amount of hands-on supervision you need, which is a real win if you're juggling a toddler or a TV show while the dough rises. The 1-year part-sans-labor warranty also adds peace of mind, especially because gear-driven mixers can be prone to wear if they are used heavily. On the flip side, the mixer's motor isn't the most powerful in the segment. If you attempt to knead a very high hydration dough, say 80% water, for a focaccia at the lowest speed, the motor can struggle, and you'll hear it labor a bit. It eventually finishes the job, but you might need to give it a break between cycles. That's a hidden trade-off. The unit is built for solid, everyday doughs, not marathon, artisan-level batches that demand relentless torque. Also, because the unit is a countertop model, it adds extra weight to the benchtop, moving it around for cleaning or storage isn't a breeze. If you have limited counter space, you'll need to dedicate a permanent spot for it. Who should consider buying this mixer? If you bake at least once a week, make bread, pizza, or any dough-heavy recipes, and